We're now live on YouTube. Want me to? I will start recording.
Okay. So recording in progress.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:36. Are there any comments from the general public? Well, Midwood as the general public. Any comments?
Sorry, you're talking to me?
You're the general public. Do you want to make any comments?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, this is talking a little off the top of my head, but we were talking about the cost of a flyer that is $10,000. I was thinking like, and maybe the city has done this, but what about a flyer that goes through all these different things? Like the environmental policies and laws of the city, because I don't think people are aware of a lot of this. And so it wouldn't just be idling, but you could come up with, some of the key provisions, laws, or even good environmental practices in the city, like compost, there's a lot that people can do that I don't think they're aware of. So, I mean, if you did a whole environmental flyer, advisory laws, I just think that would be valuable because I don't think people have anything about a lot of this. I wasn't aware that there were these laws.
Okay.
So just a thought, like I understand it's an expense, but maybe if you just put everything together.
Wait, it's all gathered in one place on the Kingston website or no?
Yes.
But a lot of renters don't go on, I mean, there's,
Right.
I
I'm just
how do
worried
you
about the
reach it?
environmental impact of like printing thousands of flyers too. But I get your point.
I'm just thinking of a way to reach everybody,
Yeah.
renters, I have tenants, they don't go on,
Yeah.
I just a thought, I don't know,
Okay.
just coming up with something that would make it worth the cost, and yes, would be one thing, one piece of paper, so that,
There could be posters instead of.
yeah, just
flyers.
some kind of campaign, educational campaign.
Yeah, well, some of this we could work on the Earth Fair, but I understand. That's great. Any other comments?
And one other thing, like with the composting program, I mean, like people can compost on their property too. I don't know why more people don't do that.
Yeah.
Yes, some people would have to use the program, but there's also all this space. So I just think that would be helpful if people would be aware of ways they can do it or tips on how to get a compost or something, could be simple. And, I mean, I just, Emily, I had a long conversation on the phone about joining and what involved and just coming to these meetings. I'm aware of the challenges, huge challenges to get people to care, be aware, and change. You're talking about, I understand it. I've always been a journalist, and so I've always been a muckraker and person that criticizes, and I try to be fair, but I can see the other end of it, trying to actually put policies in place, and then it's like moving a freighter, So I have enormous respect for what you guys do, and I think it's really important. That's one reason I was interested in joining, because, I live in the city, I walk on the rail paths, I have a pollinator garden. I'm aware last year there were no bats, like trees came down and trees are habitats, I live with that all the time. And I'm like the turtles I mentioned, because, that's where they nest. And I don't know if everyone's aware. So, so my interest in partly is, I guess I'm just talking as the public, as Linda was possibly joining, is one, as a journalist, I feel like I have skills that could be helpful.
Great.
Writing letters, doing research. I used to be an investigative reporter. I don't even know if I want to be a member, but I'd like to help in some way. And Emily mentioned that, well, being a journalist kind of can conflict with that. I'm not really writing very much about these issues. If I were a member and an opportunity came up, I would certainly vet it with the CAC before just writing about something or wanting to comment on something as an individual. I understand the difference. Yeah. So I'm just putting that out there since I'm here. Not so much the public.
Thank you. And yeah, thank you for your time. And if, and your comments, and they were really great. Okay, so the next is modifications to the agenda. So I'm just gonna say that I would like to talk about wood smoke, community preservation plan, the release of human and birds, and the budget request right away before Michael Tierney needs to leave.
Some of that's in the agenda already, isn't it?
I'm moving it up.
Oh,
I'm moving up the order.
okay. Am I
Is that
gonna switch the
modification?
minutes around, or am I? Can I
No,
just
you
leave it
don't,
the
you
way
can
it is?
just keep it whatever way you want.
Okay.
It's just, that I wanted to,
Okay,
okay. All right, so the membership update, Anita has not resigned. We have a couple potential applicants, including Lynn. And we can still take some students. I, by the way, did not follow up at all with the high school guy.
Jason Prizzy.
Yeah. And, yeah, so keep your eyes out. Jason Prizzy is a high school teacher, and we talked to him about new members joining as, because he's a connection. Okay, anything else on membership? Okay, I had sent, for the minutes, I sent some edits. Did you remember?
Yeah, under number 5.2.
uh,
Oh, just a couple.
it's just this page,
Yep,
everything else is Emily's.
Oh, yeah, you're right, those are ones. And under 5.2, the lady's name is spelled wrong.
Thank you, I was gonna mention.
Oh.
sorry, I got Brianna's.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Under 5.4, there's a period mid-sentence on the bottom. Under 5.5, Army Corps anticipates instead of participate. And under 5.7, there's a section that says Emily will send a final letter, Kingston representatives to Kingston representatives. All editorial. So change that.
Good, I won't go with any changes. People reading the sentence.
Okay. So usually what we do is we approve them as amended, and then we just need a,
I propose approve the amended minutes.
Second.
all in favor? Okay. All right. Since Michael isn't here, let's go ahead with the planning board projects. Who's coming? Okay. So, the first order of business we wanted to talk about was wood smoke, air pollution, and quality self-quality. And we sent, just to review, we sent a letter to the DPW and to Parks, because they're the ones that use gas-powered leaf blowers. And we just suggested that they start phasing in electric powered ones. And we heard back from Lindsay, and she said she would talk to her operator. Lindsay is the head of the parks, and she said she would talk to her operations people. We did not hear back from the DPW. And our next step is to address the information that Leah sent us about health and safety. So that's the next thing we want to do. So we've got a lot of information about breathing, hearing.
What if we never hear anything back from the DPW, we just let it lie? Or do we press further? It's up to you.
Yeah,
I think we should.
okay,
I mean, it's easy just to ignore that too.
okay. So what do you think I should do? Just call them up?
Yeah.
Good.
Why not? Maybe,
What if
maybe you
one
can,
from-
like, I agree, I think it's not right for them to ignore a city commission. They should at least acknowledge the note, and maybe by way of follow-up, since the information, that I found wasn't included in the first letter because I didn't do it in time. Maybe you can follow up and say, here's some additional information about why we think this is so important and we really like the opportunity to talk with you about it.
Yeah.
So they know we're not dropping this.
Yeah, that's right.
And, okay, does anyone want to,
And as usual, I'm happy to craft it or
Okay.
a letter.
did you get the information on health and safety stuff? I did not.
Consciously see it, I must admit, but I've been away so much.
I don't think, I think I only sent it to the two.
Okay, I'll read it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so do I need anything, action on that?
So my action is to draft a new letter to the DPW, but I also think
And,
after
you
we've
know,
sent it.
even the office that did respond, I mean, it's nice they responded, but we
Right.
haven't, all they did is
That's-
acknowledge them. So it might be helpful to follow up with them with the same information, saying, as you're preparing for your discussion, here's some additional info.
So anyway, the reason I wanted to bring this up with Michael here is that I want to make sure you know, we're doing this, we're letting them know. If we send a letter, we copy the mayor. But we decided that instead of trying to like ban these or do any kind of legislation through the council, we thought that it'd be more important to just, you know, clean up, you know, set an example with our own, employees.
And if I ask a question, so regarding this being the wood smoke and air quality subcommittee, I haven't personally gotten any complaints from constituents, but I know our assembly office has, and they were asking me where to direct people on that. But if somebody has a concern about their neighbor overly burning for their wood heat, would they direct those complaints to this body or to you, Julie? Or
To
where
the
would
fire
they-
department.
To the fire department? Okay.
And there is a ordinance about how much smoke you can have. I mean, we have not done anything with burning, but there is already somewhat of an ordinance and someone else can provide that information. And we have literature and everything. We have a lot of information
And this
about
stuff in the
educational
box.
information on, yeah, and then our BARTs, you know, we have an air quality monitor on top of,
I assume you're not allowed to burn these.
no.
That's
No,
not-
there's no open burning. The only way you can burn outside is if you're having a cookout and you have to have food when you're having a cookout.
Well, that's interesting.
You can't have a campfire. You have to be cooking something, like hot dogs or marshmallows or.
Well, it really says you can't have just like a fire in a fire pit in your backyard.
No, so
You're not
chapter
supposed to.
135, air pollution and smoke control, it's in our code. It talks about prohibition of emissions of dense smoke, prohibition of emissions of injurious quantities of certain materials, etc. That's all defined, so that would go through the fire department.
And we've researched a lot and we have all the information on them.
And there are all penalties of $100 for each violation.
Yeah, okay. Anything more on that?
Nope, thank you so much.
Okay. Do you want us to send you anything on that?
No, I got it, and
Okay.
I've got the website and the chapter code.
So then the community preservation plan, I did talk about that at the last, not this last, but the other, council meeting, I can't- public safety, sorry. And, so the community preservation plan and community preservation fund has to go to, has to all be completed by August to get on the ballot. So I just want to know if there was an update on that.
Yes. So the community preservation plan, a communication has been submitted to Common Council and it is on the laws and rules for this month. The laws and rules will be voting on whether to adopt the community preservation plan. We've decided to move one local law forward first, which is just the adoption of the plan. In the meantime, seeker is being completed. Kevin has done an immense amount of work for that, so thank you.
I did not send that around because I wasn't sure if my hat said Kingston Land Trust on it or if it said Kingston CAC.
Yeah, I
And
think,
since I was working sort of independently and in touch with Michael Drillinger, I just figured, let's go with Kingston Land Trust on this. I'm told otherwise and instructed to do something else.
by the way, every time I email you back, I get a rejection email.
From where?
I'll have to look.
Or we can do that all.
Yeah. So anyway, they're gonna vote on that and
In when, I'm sorry,
in April 17th. That will be the laws and rules. It will then go to the full council on May 7th.
One other thing with the secret was, what I did was I did check the references on 676 NYSRR, right, the secret regulations, and that those references are correct. And a lot of the information, I modeled it from other municipalities that have done this. And most of the two that I used the most had been done by Ted Fink of Green Plan. And we did it using all three resolutions for the council. So if the council decides not to do all three resolutions, let's say the tax thing, just go no taxes. Okay. I would have to adjust that so it's only two elements out of the three. So that's where we're at on that. And there's an addendum for part 3, which is the findings. And, well, you can read it when you get it, I guess. So it has to go to laws and rules first, but it is there and it follows from part 2, which has 18 different elements to it. So we did not do that for the open space plan. We sort of, with the open space plan, it was only a plan and that's all it was. So we just checked off neg deck and everybody was happy with that. This seemed, if there is a referendum or a tax, we need to step up the game a little bit.
so right now, they're only voting to adopt the plan,
And they have to vote on seeker for the
and they have
plan.
to vote on secret.
Well, then maybe I'll have to adjust this already then. Maybe, I don't know.
Let me find out from Corp Council. I sent it to Corp Council today.
Okay, we can turn that around by the laws and rules today.
Okay. In the meantime, the Kingston Land Trust has issued public polling to take the temperature of the community on establishing a referendum and what the community is interested in real estate transfer tax or not. I have not received those results and so those can't be spoken about at this point. But the next step after the plan being adopted would be to evaluate those results, give those results, inform the council of the results of the polling, and there's a little bit more data that needs to be presented to the council, including how many sales in the city of Kingston this would have applied to if we did this last year or the year before. How much money on average we would make in a year if we were doing this. So we're gathering that information right now from the county. And also just information about how much other communities have raised so far with this fund. And all that data will then be given to the council, probably in May.
So council or laws and rules?
Laws and rules. To then make a determination whether they want to establish the Community Preservation Fund and Advisory Board, which is the second local law, and whether they want to establish the real estate transfer tax, which would be the third law. And if all those laws go through before August 4th, then that would get sent to the Board of Elections, and then it would be on a referendum in this year's elections.
Sorry, can you say again what the three things are?
So there's 3 local laws that our common council have to pass.
Yeah.
If the common council, the city wants to establish a real estate transfer tax by referendum, then the council has to take 3 actions before that. They have to adopt our actual plan,
Okay,
and any of these things could be done without the other ones happening. So they could adopt a plan and just say, boop, great plan, not do anything about it. The second is establishing their community preservation fund itself and an associated advisory committee, which would take the plan that was then adopted and use the plan to raise money in whatever way possible to create a fund, which would then fund the recommendations of the plan, the parcels in the plan that were identified as priority.
and that committee would sort of administer.
Yes, the money would be administered by the city itself, but the committee would work with the landowners, still in for willing landowners. And that fund could be populated by grants, by general fund, by a lemonade stand, whatever. If the community wants to go further and establish a real estate transfer tax
As an additional way
as the primary way to feed the fund.
Yeah.
That real estate transfer tax is the part that has to go out to full referendum across the city. And the real estate transfer tax would be somewhere between a 0.5 and a 2% tax, and this is one of the questions that was asked in the polling, is what would you prefer? Probably 1.5 or 7.75% tax on any property that was sold in the city of Kingston over the median Ulster County amount, which is $350,000. So if you sell a home or property for $351,000, the $1,000, 0.75% of that would go into this real estate transfer tax, which would then be used by willing landowners to do the measures identified in the community preservation plan, like easements or direct purchase or transfer development rights or any of
So
those
the transfer
things.
tax is on the amount over 350,
Yes.
not the entire, I see.
So the referendum, the third law has to establish setting up the real estate transfer tax and what the tax is. So the council will need to say, it's 0.5%, it's 0.75%, it's 1.5%, whatever. In our region, most of the communities have done either 0.75 or 1.5%. And so they would establish that, and if there's any exemptions, and that would be the third law, but all of those laws have to be finalized, which means through the laws and rules, through common council the first time, second reading through common council, and signed by the mayor, and given to the Board of Elections by August 4th, in order to get on a referendum for this year,
And the seller would pay the tax, correct?
the seller. No, the buyer pays.
The buyer would pay, okay, that's interesting.
So this
Because,
would
you know,
only
this
be a
is-
tax for people who are buying places over $350,000 and buying it. Seller pays nothing,
And it's commercial and.
it's commercial and residential.
It's just, it's interesting because, you know, I don't know if you've been following this whole thing with the real estate commission, thank you. Where effectively, you know, sellers pay real estate commission, and now there's been a class action suit against the association. Anyway, it's a whole thing, but the upshot of it is that sellers are likely to be paying less commission on selling their homes. And I wonder if that's an opportunity. But if it's something that always goes to the buyer, then I guess there's no point changing it.
And this is only permitted in municipalities where New York State has permitted this to happen, which is limited to places in Ulster County and let's see, so this has been adopted in Red Hook, here, Warwick, New Paltz,
So that's orange.
Marbletown,
Gardner.
Ulster,
Gardner. Chatham is working on it,
Columbia.
and then it started in Long Island, right?
Yes, in the East End.
So it started in Long Island and then it became possible in the Hudson.
There was only the East End.
Oh, the east
Yeah,
end
it's not
of
all.
Long Island. Oh,
So
cool.
East Hampton, Southampton, Southold, Riverhead.
So that's where it is.
Okay, so one of the questions I want to ask before, has anyone seen the poll?
It would have been a phone call.
Ah,
Or
so they're
text.
only doing phones and texts?
That's how they did it. They completed it.
Ah,
I,
okay.
I
Do you
have
know-
it, but I haven't reviewed with the Kingston Land
Do you know how
Trust
many
yet.
people they reached?
Close to what they were trying to reach. A little
Oh.
short, but close.
I thought it was gonna be, I don't know, like
It could not be-
Engage Kingston. I
it
know
could not be-
they couldn't.
it's not-
Yeah.
The poll was not sanctioned by, paid for by,
Mhm.
or operated by the city of Kingston. Because the city of
Mhm.
Kingston and I cannot advocate for a referendum.
Right.
So that's
Oh,
why
we
the land
can.
trust is working on it. I don't know if you can.
We can
I have to find
individually.
out. Individually, you can't as a commission, I don't think.
Right,
So once
poll
the
that-
laws are passed, I have to step out.
And so then, what if it is on the referendum in August, then there's that time to raise awareness for the vote in November.
Which would then be the campaign run by the land trust.
So that's where,
Michael Grillinger is the chairperson of the Land Trust, is the point person on this.
okay.
I get CC'd on it, but I'm not the point person.
So the activity in terms of Michael here is to make sure he's aware of all this again.
Yes, and I don't
And-
believe a municipality in the state has actually voted down a,
I think one has, I have to find out which one it is.
Yeah.
There has been, it started in the beginning with the opposition. But even the communities in our area that had opposition, the opposition was from the New York State Board of Realtors.
yes,
Then those committees in our, communities in our area still voted it through 75%.
very
Hmm.
overwhelming.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though the Board of Realtors was throwing money at it.
A lot of money, like 5 times as much money as the local campaign.
Yeah, so seems good and more people are doing it.
It's great.
And there's a
Yeah.
committee that would be established if law number 2 goes through, that would be another kind of commission, kind of like this one. that
Yes, that would
citizens
work
could
with our
join.
comptroller.
Mhm.
And the key to all of this is that the plan itself, using objective data, like, do you have water on your property? Do you have a forest? Are you close to a park? Those things. If you get a point for each of those things. If you have any points on your property whatsoever, you are eligible for this funding. If you want to. It is only for willing homeowners. So even the most valuable property with the highest amount of points in the city of Kingston, most valuable from an ecological and conservation perspective, could say, no, we don't want any of the funding, we're not doing any of this, we're not conserving our land, we're gonna build it up as much as we want, and that is their prerogative.
And that's all based on all the open space work that we've done over the years.
And so for every single parcel in the city of Kingston, they have a score, it's all public, it's on the community preservation plan website. And there's not necessarily a ranking that the highest score means we're going to do something there first. It could be you could have 1 point, one single point, like you could, my house, which has no other ecological value where I'm located, is probably located over an aquifer, which means I get like 1 point for that. Or it's on farmland, it's on prime soil. Prime farm soil. I'm never gonna farm, I have a garden, but my property will never be turned into a farm. So like, just needs a point for the committee to even consider it at all.
What about if you're putting in native plants or something? Because, how many properties in Kingston are farmland or?
Yeah,
But that,
and that's why that's the thing, a lot of properties in the city of Kingston are eligible, like a really lot.
yeah, but it would be, it would be purchased and then, what would you do, tear the house down? I don't know. But.
So you mean the money is mostly for easements or?
It's mostly,
conservation
it's
easement?
for
Or protect the
purchase,
open-
for
You know, like if you
open
protect more
space.
land.
It's really-
It can be used for historic preservation as well.
Okay,
What it can't be used for, just for clarification, is it cannot be used for housing. It cannot be used for infrastructure, so it can't be used for roads, it can't be used for potholes, it can't be used for sewer. can't be used for any of those things. It is prescribed by law, not even our law, the county law, the state law that makes our county qualified. It is prescribed what it can and cannot be used for. The state is working on a housing equivalent, but right now it cannot be. So if anyone who's like, oh, well, we got this tax money, we should just spend it on housing, you can't. There is a prescription for what you can and cannot do.
And that's when you're doing the research, like you can provide like how much they've raised, what they've purchased,
Right.
stuff like that. Okay, any questions?
So if you want to know any of these things that we just talked about, Engage Kingston has all of it on there, including the plan itself. You can look up your house.
Any more questions on that?
I was gonna reiterate from last month, because there has been some action on this, in terms of the housing discussion. There's a separate initiative being kicked around by, in Albany as we speak. I don't know if it's gonna make it into the budget or not. It's a community housing fund. And it also started on the east end of Long Island, with Assemblyperson Field and Assemblyperson Field and Assemblyperson Dee Dee Barrett from the Hudson Valley are the sponsors for this. And so one of the discussions we had of laws and rules, which was a pretty quick discussion, is the tax percentage came up, and we were like, well, if you're going to do this, you may want to save a little bit, hold a little back on the community preservation fund end. Or if it looks like the community housing fund is going to go through, if it looks like it's dead in the water, well, you do whatever you have to do. But, yeah, so that's just a thing.
But has it been passed yet? No.
No.
It does Senate.
No,
The budget is not passed.
All right.
No, I thought they'd extended it again, but the governor signed another extension, but I'm not, don't call me.
Okay, any more on that?
I just have a quick question. Are there other communities that have this community preservation plan or doing this?
Yeah, Gardner, New Falls, Red Hook.
All the ones that have the tax
Or what, yeah.
are doing this.
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yep, got it.
Um,
And one thing with the
Marlboro,
housing
Marlboro
fund,
County.
one other thing with the housing fund is that there's a group of land conservation groups and affordable housing groups, including Kingston Land Trust and Rupco in Kingston and the Taproot CLT are involved with Steve Rosenberg, who was formerly the Scenic Hudson. He set up a group, and I think we just renamed it Hudson Valley Alliance for Housing and Land Conservation. So, yeah, we've sent letters of support in from all the different groups on the housing fund. And the preservation fund as well, to expand the preservation fund beyond maybe statewide, I think is where we're looking.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so the next thing is the helium balloons. So there was someone who complained that helium balloons were being released from somewhere. Kingston Point Beach. And so the city just took an administrative action of saying that if you're renting, there's a rental agreement if you rent something for parks, like a pavilion, and then you can't release balloons. And then we investigated, and there's an Assembly and a Senate bill already that Theo was the sponsor in the Assembly. And it's in front of it's at both Senate and Assembly, the environmental committees. So we just wrote them and said, we think this is great bill, you should pass it statewide. Then Kingston did. And we just sent that letter.
Did you send that to the chair of the environment committee or to ours?
I only sent it to Michelle's on the environmental committee, but do you think I should send it to those two?
I think that would be more critical.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
from my experience working with the state legislature,
Okay.
there are 10,000 bills introduced every year. And it's not like the common council or the county where every bill gets its turn.
Okay. Yeah, because
It really needs to be advocated for, we put on the
Oh,
agenda.
right, okay, that's good to know, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks. So that's where we're passing the buck, basically. For the
Oh, it's
greater
great.
good.
It's
For the greater
good.
good.
Stay, oh, yeah.
I was just concerned that it was something that you wanted the council to pass.
No. Not right now, because we think it's better to do it this way. Yeah, but I wanted to make sure you were aware. And then the last thing is that we have never asked for money and we have no budget. And Julie told us the last time what we have to do a budget request and when we need to do it. So we're gonna request a budget, so that's just a heads up, but we need to talk about how much, what we want to spend it on, and so on, and so we can table that tonight, or we can talk about it.
Be
We
nice
just,
to have some money for the earth fair take.
yeah, for the,
Because last year I was not like, I mean, I don't mind doing it, but it would be nice to be reimbursed for that.
right, for literature.
And seeds, I bought a whole lot of seeds to give it.
Just to add some color here, there are 22-ish boards in the city and less than 5 have a budget. One of them that does is Climate Smart Kingston, and this year they have a $1,000 budget, which they asked for, and they justified it in writing. However, it's probably likely that the council is not even aware of it because it gets put under my budget in my office. So if the CAC were to do the same thing, it would also go under my budget.
Okay, so,
And
Does that mean it would take away from you?
frankly, it doesn't really matter because whatever the CAC needs to pay for now comes out of my budget anyway. It would actually at least articulate a line item
so,
or an earmark for funding. Right now, so for instance, every year the CAC becomes a member of the New York State Association of Conservation Commissions, this statewide umbrella of this. That comes out of my department budget, without having a CAC budget, I just pull it out of my budget. That's $75, it's not a big deal. But like, I'm not gonna be able to find $1,000, or even, it's gonna be hard to even find $500, just loosely in my budget. I run a very tight budget in my office, and our department in general runs a very tight budget, so there's not a lot of just say a lot of fluff here. That would be the value, but it needs to be really well articulated so that you would have to justify it to me, who have to justify it to my department head, who has to justify it to the mayor, who has to, they also have to justify it to the common council.
yeah, so that's why I wanted to bring it up
So if
now,
it's like,
because we have a
nice,
while.
it's not a good reason.
Yeah, and so, the other thing is,
Oh, and the
So
money
if
does
she
not
wanted-
roll over,
what?
and the money does not roll over, and any procurement of anything is not like you give me a receipt and I give you cash, that doesn't happen, there's no cash involved at all, it would have to be procurement through our procurement office of me getting a purchase order or purchase request for whatever you're purchasing. It's not a simple process.
So in other words, if she wanted to buy some seeds,
If she wanted to buy some seeds, then we either have to go, I would have to buy them through a place where we already have a standing PO, like Herzog's.
Mhm.
And I absolutely could do that.
Mhm.
But if it's like at Climate Smart is a partner on Repair Cafe. Repair Cafe is offered every 4 months or 2 months, and they provide pizza to their vendors. I can't just buy pizza, it's just not a thing that I can do, city money. So yes, they have $1,000, but I haven't spent any yet because we can't figure out what we're doing.
okay, so, but if we wanted to say, get something printed, you could either print it in-house,
Or I could,
or you
if there's a
could
budget.
put it to your.
Oh, nice, okay.
Right, so if you want something printed right now, I could print something that looks like this. If you want something printed that looks like this, you're going to need a budget for it.
Great. I think it'd be great to get something printed. Is there time to do it for this?
So none of this would go into effect so you would need to, for timeline here, you would need to vote on what you want and provide me some kind of suggestion by earlier than August.
Okay,
Because the departments put together their budget by August. And they then start the process budget process starts in August and goes all the way through November. None of it would even be coming into effect until January
Okay,
first.
so let me re-ask this question. If she wanted to use your present budget to buy some seeds for May,
Yes, I can figure that out.
you
Oh,
can
really? Oh, okay,
Yes.
great, thank you.
And if you want
We
something
got there in the end.
and not as nice as this,
Right.
she could also pick it.
Because,
I could probably do it on a colored piece of paper, but nothing is going to.
Right, sure. Okay, great.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, I'll talk to
And that's
Anita
the thing,
because I like the
it's
materials that
related
she
to the Earth
has.
Fairs itself. We happen to have a very large budget for the Earth Fair because we got great sponsorships this year.
Oh, great.
None of the Earth Fair goes to the city's money, but we got a ton of sponsorships.
Okay, so that's good to
There's a
know.
good cushion budget for the Earth Fair.
Okay,
Great.
so the next step is for you to, can you check with Brianna about the registration? And is it too late? Did we miss?
No, you did not miss.
Okay. Next steps is the registration, literature and seeds.
And just like,
And
let
and
Brianna
whatever
know,
Anita, and maybe Anita wants to help.
and just let them know that they are now communicating with me and not Ellie.
So we've to write to you to do the application. Brianna needs to put the application into you.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
All right, great. So that was all that I had. Is there anything else? That's all the agenda items that I moved around for Michael.
The registration that Brianna's doing, what is that for?
You have to register.
Oh, for the Earth. Oh,
Yeah.
I missed that.
I haven't heard from Brianna.
I wrote back there and said, we do have quorum. But she, assuming she's traveling, I have no idea where she is.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we can go back to the rest of the agenda. Okay, so the planning board projects 140 to 150 Boulevard and 6692 Pettit. Pettit,
It's Pettit.
Nice. I should have another T, right?
yeah, it's got 3 T's. But, so we didn't talk about this before the quorum, so now you can talk about it again.
Oh, it's not on the planning board agenda right now.
Okay,
Hold it up and look just again, just in case it came on at, 4:29 PM. Not today. That doesn't mean it won't come on and be, 4:29 PM the day of the meeting. So,
and any other action on that that you're aware of?
no.
Any other activities on planning board?
Not, well, yeah, I mean, they always have something, but anything that would be in the CAC's purview, I don't think so. The new business would be 9 Prince Street to construct 8 additional units to a multifamily property, which requires another major waiver. This would be on floor height, but I don't think that's something we're delving into here.
I live near Prince Street, I can't think of it. Is that the brewery?
Prince? No,
That's the restaurant stores, right?
no, Prince is like, behind Monkey Joe's.
Yeah. What building
Where's the
is it?
building? What building? It's over here. Look out the window.
Yeah, probably, yeah, probably faster.
Is it that? Across from the plumber? Just being nosy. Pardon?
No, I couldn't find the link, but I'm using Barbara's computer, so everything is in a different place. Right, so,
Okay,
yeah, you want to know where it is?
I can look it up.
Gee. Six, 1. Looks like Prince and Hasbro.
Princeton,
Oh, it's the corner where,
DPW is?
no.
See, well, but it may not be the people up here, they're quite often.
That's top taste.
It's Top Taste?
That corner. Top Taste is the place?
It's-
That's what the picture's showing.
Right.
But that's not a multi-family building. Oh, wow.
No, they want to construct one. It lists the owner as Wells Fargo Bank. That doesn't sound good. Sounds like it got foreclosed.
All right. Well, we'll just watch that. Okay, thank you.
This may be a new buyer. It's not the applicant to the planning board. It's not listed as the owner at the parcel viewer, which is not an uncommon situation.
Yeah, no, that's okay, thank you. Okay, so Woodstock, we already covered zoning, anything going on? What are we gonna do with this whole solar,
We are doing something with it. So, Brad Borkus from Climate Smart and myself and Melissa Iachatter from Climate Smart and Asriel Aileen and Amanda Joe Green and Jess Mullen are evaluating all of our solar potential and creating a report by June at the directive of the county. So the county has put out an executive order and they want to have each municipality by the end of September of the year, create a solar siting report that describes and articulates where solar should be and where it is already, so that there's a countywide collective plan for how they're going to reach the county's solar goals by whatever the county's solar goal date is. I don't know what the executive order is. So anyway, Melissa Iachatter and Brad Borkus are taking the scenic Hudson solar mapping training. As part of that, they start this whole process, and then we are going to move forward with all the development considerations, like the permitting process, interconnection, how that is, what the incentives are, what the project scales are that we could be looking at. And basically using that mapping to identify the prime locations for how we're going to achieve the most ground mount and roof mount solar in the city. Put that report together by June.
and
That's
then,
the lofty goal that may or may not be achieved. Yeah.
and then the, problem with the form-based code would changing something in the large array.
Right, so in that process, we will be able to then say, okay, there are 17 locations where a commercial scale solar system would be viable because there's interconnectivity, there's not any farmland in the way, there's not any trees in the way, all these other things. However, our zoning says that we can't put in commercial solar because of X zoning. So in the zoning look back process, which is happening soonish, then this is where the CAC comes in, is that if, in our analysis, if we discover that our zoning would preclude us from achieving these goals, then the CAC would make the recommendations to the zoning update team, whoever that ends up being, to say, hey, we have done this work, we think that you should change the zoning to reflect X.
On this, and it's all gonna,
Work at the same time,
yes,
hopefully.
correlate.
Well, because the look back is nowish, right, Kevin?
From what I understand.
And it's probably gonna go on for a couple months.
Yeah, I'm not on that task force.
But I mean, you've been most in tune to what the deal is. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
but I'm not even sure who's on the task force besides Tom. Look at the minutes from last month.
yeah, I'm assuming the look back is going to be a couple month process.
So hopefully it's gonna,
Hopefully,
so who should we be tracking that? How should we track it?
well, you should track the report through me and you should track the status of the zoning through the mayor, I guess, or me,
Or Bartek.
or Bartek.
I would think Bartek.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Great. Okay. City plan review, we've got anything in raise?
I have no update on raise, there's been no contractual advancement yet. Point Park, I have no update, there's been no design advancement yet since the last meeting. Kingston Organics, we have surpassed 23 tons collected, food scraps so far. And I'm at 978 people registered, which means that I'm almost close to 1,000.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, 443 families, which means I'm gonna hit 450 families and 1,000 people in the next month.
Yay.
Yeah. Super excited. And last week, we had our highest collection in 1 week, it was 0.73 tons. 3/4 of a ton in 1 week of food scraps that people are putting in their car and driving to the drop-off site.
Easter,
That's right, Easter.
Easter dinner.
It was all
A
eggshells.
lot of hams, a lot of ham bones.
How much is it to date?
223.23 tons.
So, is that all just through word of mouth and, you know, how?
No, we did
how
it,
could
we
we
did
learn
DM,
for
we did
education?
DM for that, we did an every door direct mail for Kingston Organics.
Yeah, but I mean, that was a long time ago, so.
That was in May of last year. Now it's literally word of mouth. I get
Yeah.
at least, my average is 10 families. Well, we started registering in May of last year. There was a huge push right after the EDPM. And now it's just people, because I have QR codes and signs on all the sheds. And I think people just see them. But I also have flyers all over town. I mean, I'm not really pushing it because frankly, I'm waiting for the next phase, which is door to door.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
So.
Can we put anti-idling literature on your little beds?
I feel like I feel like I want to post no bills. Because once we start posting something, we post
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I could.
Anything more on, any of those? We already covered community preservation plan, New York, New Jersey hats. Kevin, you can,
Yeah, we discussed that a little bit informally before. The only update to that is there's no update. The project is supposed to end in June, and the Army Corps has indicated there's much work still to be done. So I would recommend not taking it off the agenda because something may happen between now and June.
are they trying to get more money from Congress or anything?
I would imagine they are, but they're not putting it on the website.
Yeah.
I mean, the implication is that they are.
Sorry, what is that?
This is the storm surge barriers, the New York, New Jersey harbor area tributaries.
Study.
And it's for,
And the reason we're following it is because if they put a barrier on the harbor, then the tide the waters could be potentially back.
And I think Riverkeeper was very concerned about this.
Yeah, there's a lot
I
of.
went to a meeting years ago about
Right.
It's gonna look.
how it would affect the Hudson River,
Yeah,
and that's related to that still.
yes, we weren't up here, we're in the project area, but the specific, they had 6 proposals, but one of them was a no action, so there's what's called 5. And out of those, the one that they picked as the preferred alternative didn't really do anything up here. So-
I'll sit here, I
Yeah,
was
so
sitting
we're-
there, I'm sitting there because of the
Yeah,
sun.
we were asking them for, some support, And one of the issues that they had brought up was, at the Riverkeeper had brought this up repeatedly. The barriers will most likely not be used for storm surges as much as just for king tides and just regular, ordinary weather events, which would keep it closed quite a bit.
Which would be terrible.
Well, they would.
Right, it wouldn't be good for
Yeah.
habitat.
Right.
Yeah, and there's disagreements in the scientific community
About the.
about storm surge barriers, yes. Yeah. Dr. Wharton said from Stevens Institute says one thing, and he's pretty much in agreement with Whistle people. Then there's Dr. Bowman from now or formerly of the Stony Brook Oceanographic, who was, gung ho on storm surge barriers.
So it's really complicated.
Yeah, they're trying to, get
But you would be,
these people over here.
but
over
your
here.
CAC is just tracking it because it could affect
Well,
the ecology
yeah.
of the river up here.
And
Yeah,
whether,
always has to
yes,
be-
and whether or not they can keep us in the, I don't know, as a, to, for funding.
Yeah,
Because they're probably not gonna do the big storm surge, they're gonna do more like blocking off certain.
that was the preferred
Yeah,
alternative,
preferred
was a
alternative.
series of smaller ones. That big one that would go from
Right, like the one like in Rotterdam,
Jersey
it's
to
like-
Rockaway, no, not happening.
Yeah.
That's like, before, 7 or 8 years ago, it was budgeted at 32 billion, and it was like throwing 32 billion in the ocean, so.
Okay, so, native planting, this is really about, you know, how can we get some education out of there? And I don't have anything to report, but but we will be talking about that at the Earth Fair, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
pollinator gardens.
Hmm?
Pollinator.
Pollinators, yes. Hopefully that are needed. Okay, so I don't have anything on wetland preservation. I need to go back and I want to come up with like an actual inventory and then we can go through and see where they are, and what, you know, what we can do to preserve them, and I just haven't had time.
You can look to the natural resources inventory, they're all inventoried and
Right,
mapped.
right. Oh, yeah, I know that. It's, that and kind of overlaying the, anything from the form-based code.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so then the other thing is whether or not we want to comment on the, Lower Soda Stream Management Plan update, and I did send you information. I attended the meeting on March 28th. Did anyone else make that meeting?
I was on Zoom.
Okay. So do you have anything to say about it?
Well, a lot of the meeting, it seemed to get, sort of at the end, get taken over by Sardi's people. Did you notice that? That were.
What do you mean?
Well,
I'm not
no,
from
they
Sardi's,
started,
that's
they
fine.
started asking about, FEMA buyouts and that sort of thing. Did you catch
Was that
that
on
White House
the, was
Drive?
that on the Zoom or is that on?
I heard it on Zoom. Maybe this was only on Zoom and it wasn't
Mhm.
discussed in the room.
Yeah.
They were just talking with Kristen Wilson and whoever else was there. What I was more concerned with, it wasn't Sardi's as much as, the levy. At Kingston
Right.
Plaza.
Right. So the way that it worked was that they kind of, so first of all, Kevin and I had talked, we commented on the management plan. And then kind of through the management plan, they had already kind of put up these projects. So now the implementation plan are a list of like 42 projects. And they talked about, pretty much went through them. And the projects are reach by reach. And then there's some overall ones. So that, of course, like the Sardi's people are gonna want Sardi's. And the people up in Marbletown are gonna want Marbletown. And so on. And they, out of the 42, they gave us 5 sticky dots to vote on. That was it. So it was kind of hard to vote. And they're very, thank you for bringing that up. And so they're also very, you know, some of these things are just like, you could just do it. And then others are really kind of foundational to, like, it's kind of a cause that you could, you know, get at the root cause that would then help everything. So a root cause would be, of course, the discharge of water out of the Ashoka. And so that, and then like putting up a website is like, okay, you can put up a website, but it's not a real big, it's not gonna solve anything. It would educate. So, so the big, everyone kind of definitely, one of the big votes was to come up with something about the discharge of the dams. But it was very weirdly, it was very weirdly worded. It's called base flow. And it's, it's 31. So it's called establish environmental flows needed to support a healthy ecosystem for the lower Esopus. Establish environmental flows needed for, there's a description, then the objective is work with reservoir managers and regulators to implement improved environmental flows while still providing the water needs of New York City. That's all it says. It's like really hard to understand what that means. You know, it means, you know, base flow state, by the way, there is a, there are bookmarks.
Okay, so it's just kind of
Yeah.
letting people see all of it.
Oh, okay, thank you. So,
Which one am I going to?
These are the 43
yeah.
initiatives.
Mhm.
Which one am I
Yes.
going to? 31.
31.
31.
So anyway, anyone could go on this website and vote for 5,
Oh, right.
okay?
What's the just Google Lower Esopus, look at the website.
Um,
Stream management plan.
That would probably get it to you, yes?
Yeah, but like you said, it's a little bit of a popularity contest, isn't it?
Yes,
If Kingston people vote, they're gonna vote for the Kingston stuff. Surrey's people vote, they're gonna vote for the Surrey stuff.
yes,
Unless people are comprehensively minded and not
yes,
focused on just their own.
yes.
Yeah, and the thing I mentioned is, I don't believe that's in the plan.
Which one?
The buyouts by FEMA.
There's also nothing in here about our levy.
I think Dennis
About
addressed
what?
that.
Levy.
12, look at 12
Yeah,
and look
Yeah,
at
there are.
13. Yeah, it's very hard to pull out.
yeah, that would
This is
be,
the levy one?
yeah,
What's the levy?
There's a levee behind the Kingston Plaza, and it's been
It's a dam.
decertified by FEMA.
Between the creek and the plaza, there's a dam that prevents the plaza from getting flooded.
And what's the plan to do with it?
It is no longer considered certified by FEMA, meaning that the plaza now doesn't even have insurance against the creek. And the plan should be to build up the levy so that it is recertified.
But right now, so in other words, decertified means it could flood. They could just go into just repair and flood.
It has flood, but also they don't have flood insurance.
But the dam itself, the levy itself hasn't changed. What qualifies certification has changed. So it's like, whatever risk it is, was always been at, it's still at that same risk.
It's not like it's deteriorating.
It's not that it's
No.
deteriorated.
And it's not like it's tidal flooding that is changing because of sea level rise.
Right.
It's a land.
It's not compromised.
Mhm.
It's just decertified because they changed the regulations.
So is there a way to get it certified, Julie? I mean, what's the answer then?
The answer is that the city applies for funding to figure out how to recertify it. And that's on our radar.
Right, but
And I don't-
also.
is that the same thing as what they're outlining here? This is a waterfront plan to recommend to revitalize the creek as it passes through Kingston.
What's the other one? The one before 11,
This is us too, 13.
13. No, you're right. I don't think there is anything.
there was discussion, though, at the meeting, when they got to these sections.
Like, to me, this does not inherently say, fix the levee so
No.
that it's good.
Right,
It
and we-
says, hey,
but
how do we
I-
get people to the water in Kingston?
Okay, so they don't have the funding to fix the levee.
No,
Right, they don't even have the funding for a design to fix the levee. It's like, it's really like a feasibility stage. That's about all they have here. And they discuss that with all these projects. Don't think if you vote, everybody votes for one project, you might you might
They
not
only
be
have
able to
$2 million,
fund it.
it's not.
Exactly.
It's not a lot of
The
money.
whole thing. And we don't know how much of that's been spent, or will be spent with the consultants.
I have a quick question too, I don't mean to keep
Yeah.
interrupting, but there used to be a rail path behind the Super 8 that connected with the Hurley path, the O and W.
That's all
That's-
fixed,
that's-
it's
that's
beautiful.
very
Because I went there, it was all, it's still there?
Yes.
Not only that, it's completely 100% improved.
Oh, okay, so they must have been starting to construct it when I went there, because it was all broken up, where the power lines are.
When was that?
In the beginning of, like last year.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
like-
yeah.
It's unbelievable, you can see it, no,
Yeah.
if you go on Washington Avenue where the railroad tracks are, it's a beautiful parking space,
Oh my
a
God, so
beautiful concrete path all the way to
so you
her.
don't have to go by Super 8, there's another way to get to it.
It's right next to
No, that's
Super
a
8.
great.
Oh, okay,
No.
but in other words, they didn't, it wasn't the utility.
No, it's all, it's amazing.
No, no, no,
Okay.
no.
All right, because that,
And it wasn't
I think if
Kingston
that's-
Meadows either.
right, but I guess that's the
Yeah.
access thing.
Yeah, they worked that out.
It has beautiful parking areas.
Oh, thank you, good to know.
Okay, so one of the things we can say is kind of restate that we feel like this is an important thing.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is just, and we can either decide tonight, but someone's got to write the letter before Friday. So we're allowed to like do our little 5 stickies. Anyone can do that electronically. And as you said, it's a popularity contest. And then the other thing, but we as a group can kind of talk about what we think is kind of best for the system. And my suggestion on that is to have a watershed coordination program. And like in the list that I sent you, I sent the base flow study, the Ashokan spillway bluff stabilization, so the base flow study is to kind of say, okay, how much water do you need to go down the Esopus to kind of keep it healthy without like overloading it with too much water and too much turbidity, too much sediment. The Ashokan spillway, there's a big bluff that's being eroded, and that would prevent some sediment from not going down the river. There's still sediment coming out of the reservoir. Build relationships with key organizations, like, I don't know why I put that in, but that's kind of like, yeah, that's a really good idea, but it's, you should just do that anyway, to me. Stewardship program was 34. 35 is what I thought was a FEMA flood insurance study review, but I think I was wrong on that. The lower Esopus water trail and reservoir release notification. The only thing I thought was good about that is that mostly is like it's just nice to have a release notification, even if there isn't a water trail for anyone using the river, the Esopus Creek in any manner.
Is this public, by the way?
Where'd you get that? What is that?
You sent it to me.
Yeah, it's the appendix.
Yes.
It is public?
Yeah.
Apparently made public.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's part of it.
It is now.
What is the value of this prioritization score if they're asking for people's feedback? If there's already a prioritization score? I don't know.
No?
Because,
I can't see it. I've changed my glasses.
well, this is all the actions, and the
Right.
column all the way to the right has a total number that basically says you're taking into consideration cost, environmental justice, enhanced climate resilience, improved water quality, enhanced stream function, promoting floodplain management, supporting ecosystem health and biodiversity, encouraging sustainable recreation, engaging local communities, and then a total prioritization score.
And so is the top 34 is the top one?
No,
Why are they not enough numerical order?
that is a good question. I'm not the one who put this together. I would
They're
have
not
put the
alphabetical order?
I believe so.
alpha, just the last possible thing I would have done.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
But I believe that's.
51 is pretty darn, is the highest I've seen. Kingston is Sopa's waterfront plan. There must have been a lot of Kingston people there that voted.
But no, and I don't think this could have been put out, this was not put out
So I'm saying, maybe
after
this is a
April,
public.
March 28th. Yeah. I have not read that whole thing.
This is just like the last 4 pages of what you sent around.
Okay, thank you for doing that.
46, 47, that's pretty high. Conservation of agriculture and forest corridor in southern Hurley.
Oh, I see, okay.
But this, obviously there was a matrix that was set up where
Yeah,
they got points for those things.
yeah.
And none of that is 49 people voted for me.
Exactly.
So maybe they're taking this, maybe that's what existing priorities is, or maybe there's another column that's gonna be like, I got a lot of votes, 5.
What's it called? Is this a table?
What, this is the document that you
I
sent.
know,
Oh,
but does it have
this thing, it's called the,
It doesn't have a table. I'm just trying to see if they.
it's like the last 4 pages or whatever you sent.
Right. Yeah, this was probably done by the consultants.
So Emily, I'm leaving town on Thursday morning. If you want to work together on a letter tomorrow, I'd be happy to.
Okay. I have sometime in the afternoon. Anyway, is there anything just from what we've talked about that you think we should comment on? Because we are allowed to put in a comment, we don't just have to vote. And I did want to say that I think that based on the stuff that we did in January, that they added the last 2 actions, and one was to have a water quality study. And that's kind of like, again, like, okay, if we have a water quality study, then we have a baseline and we can see if we improve.
I think that's a great idea.
And,
There's the QR code if you wanna vote.
and then the other one was about septic tanks and to have a survey of septic tanks. And that's not really relevant to Kingston, but it was added based on, I think we put that suggestion in also because it is a big deal for local train and all these other.
We had septic at Hurley when we were on Briggs Lane.
Yeah, and so they're, if they're leaking, then they're going into, to the lake.
Emily, a question. So, the water quality study you mentioned that would be a good idea. You're talking about the water quality of Esopus Creek itself, like, so and the New York City Department of whatever it is that manages the Ashokan,
DEP.
it's the DP, yeah, they have so much information, but is it only about the Ashokan itself? They don't have like water quality data for the lower Esopus?
That's correct, that's right.
Okay.
Because they don't give a shit. No, it's true. I was told that I
You're being recorded.
somebody from the DEP told me.
So, yes, so that would be, and there is work, I believe, with river keeper for Enterococcus, which is related to sewage. But there's also things like, turbidity.
And they're still doing those releases, right? The turbidity was a huge problem.
Well, they're
They're flushing out the reservoir.
the $2 million is because there's.
Because of that, so this is the end, this is
Yeah.
the way to remedy.
And this is, the work to really work on how, how
So this
we
is
can
from the
manage this
2011
better.
club?
Pardon?
Is this from the 2011 club?
So it was not just Irene and the lead, no, these are actual releases. They released, I can't even explain it,
Okay.
but they released it because they wanted they have to.
Oh, they were doing work.
They
Yeah,
wanted,
I
no,
remember.
no, they have to, when the water goes over to the other side, they have to,
Flush it out.
they basically want to flush it.
But Emily, they're still doing this, right? If that part of the reservoir gets
I mean, look
too
right there,
silty.
that picture right there showing it.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, but I can't answer that question specifically, but that's why one of the things is to have a, release notification so that people know.
So they have to let the communities know, oh, we're gonna do release.
No, they don't have to.
So,
Well, I'm not really up on all of this. There is a whole, there's a group of municipalities that work with the DP because of all of this. And they meet and, this is all coming out of the fact that there have been releases.
Right.
And so we're trying to.
because I read that.
Good citizens.
Because I read that they were responsible and wanted to put it on the communities, and that's what this is. But it's still a problem because they can release that, anyway.
Well, there's reasons that they have to release, like if there's a flood coming, they have to decide. And one of the things that anyway, I don't feel comfortable explaining it all because people even at the county level understand this way better than I. But I feel like this is our chance to speak. And so all I want to know is whether or not, by quickly glancing through this, if there's anything.
Well, I think the
Other
water
than-
quality test is a really, to me, that would be a problem.
So what water quality?
Water quality.
Mhm. And is there anything that you would object to that we include or not include?
I'd love to see more access from Kingston, would be great. But I mean, that's so nice to have, but I know, having owned a house right next to the Esopus Creek, the water quality was not good. I mean, I love wild swimming, and I went in it once, and I was like, not doing that.
Yeah,
So I
because of
think
the turbidity. Yeah, you're not sure.
other things,
Yeah.
What part of the creek was that on? in Kingston?
and Hurley. Great Slane, near the Hurley Mountain.
All right, so Kevin, do you want to be involved or are you busy this week?
I'm
Or anyone
pretty busy, but,
Okay,
I can look at it if you want.
well, if you can send anything to me Wednesday or Thursday, then I can try to finish it up on Friday afternoon before it's due.
Okay, and so I'm leaving town on Thursday.
Yeah, so maybe you can, yeah,
Sure.
tomorrow. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So do you want to do anything about like allowing us to do this? Can we have a resolution,
Sure.
Yeah,
motion?
I propose that we send a letter to the Lower Esopus Stream Management Authority.
It's actually to the county,
To the county on the Lower Esopus Stream Management Plan.
and it's on
recommending-
the implementation plan.
on the
Not
implementation
The
plan,
management plan is,
excuse me, the Lower Esopus Stream implementation plan, expressing our wishes as CAC and leaving it open to you to decide what that is. That is my proposal.
in seconds,
Second,
all in favor? Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I didn't do it
I
right.
had a battery issue there. See
Oh.
So
Do you want to switch?
just tell, no, I'm okay, just tell me what the priorities are again that you're looking at in the letter.
I sent you an email about him this afternoon. so you
Oh,
can-
okay,
Copy.
we're good then.
Okay. Next,
New business, can I cut this to next month? Sorry. The communication to
Yeah.
local media and other, but next month I will have some concrete suggestions, I promise.
okay,
Um,
anything new and anything we want to talk about? on open issues? Anything else? Okay, new pick, I threw that in, right?
You asked me to, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, the city of Kingston is partnering with a firm, Supermass Studios, to apply to the NUPIC, New York State DEC Climate Adaptive Design Project, Community Waterfront Resiliency Design and Permitting RFP. This is funding that was put out by NUPIC and New York State DEC for communities who've already done climate adaptive design studios, who have gone the second step, which was climate adaptive design, chosen one of those studios designs and gone to conceptual level design, which we did 4 or 5 years ago with Supermass Studios, which is a firm out of New York City. And only those communities that have done both of those things can apply to this funding, which only now applies to 3 or 4 communities, one of which is the city of Kingston. We put out a request to all firms in the area who wants to do it, because the application has to be submitted by a vendor, not by the city. And we had multiple people respond through a competitive review process. We did choose Supermass Studios, and it's due Friday. And we can apply for up to $400,000, and they're going to award it to 1 or 2 communities. We're hoping 1. And that will take the climate adaptive design project that we are moving forward is the terracing of Kingston Point Beach. And so if they are awarded this grant, they will complete full construction documents and permitting to do a $4 or $5 million project at Kingston Point Beach to protect us basically in perpetuity from sea level rise through terracing. So the beach is currently like this. Every time the tide and sea level rise is impacting us, we're losing our beach, and we're also losing our land. And so this would create, in the same essential footprint, it would create a terracing effect where right now we would be programming, i.e. swimming and functioning on this bottom level. And then as time progresses, this would be underwater, and now this would be the program level. And then as time progresses, this will be the program level. We'll still always have a swimmable beach. It will just keep getting underwater. It also includes a pier, if we are permitted to do so, pier out into the water. And the boat launch would remain, and we just have to go up and over. Basically, behind all of this terracing would be a levee that would then bring you back down to the parking lot. So
It's really amazing, is this drawing, I just want to say that there was so many steps, but is the design on something that you can look at?
yeah, I can probably bring it up.
So just to bring you, while she's doing that, so Cornell University had these students that were landscape design majors, and they would take a project in a community and they'd come up, like, they'd have a group, each group did the same project and came up with a different solution. And they were doing all of this multiple times with different communities. And then the Hudson River Estuary Program decided that it was really good, they were coming up with the designs, but no one was doing anything about it. So then they put money up to have like a full, to an actual professional, to much more in-depth. And that's where we got that design. And then the next step now is to actually come up with full engineering things. And then we could pursue, the city could pursue the funding. So Supermass came up with the original thing, and they hopped up to the top.
Actually, the students at Cornell came up with the original.
Yeah.
Supermass took what they just came up as a concept, brought it to actual, design, and now Supermass is bringing it to actual construction. So here, this is a YouTube video that we did last year, which if you go to Engage Kingston, you can find all these climate adaptive design stuff. But this is basically the premise. This is the existing beach, existing parking lot, all this is existing. But this would be the bottom tier, and then this would be the second tier. Like, so right now, you could use all this space. But as the sea level rises, you then only have that amount, and as the sea level rises, you only then have that amount. But you still have a swimmable beach on the Hudson River. And then this would be a pier, and this would be a wetland. And this would go up and over to get to the parking lot, and this would be a berm. This is showing sea level rise over time, so see 2050 gets up to there.
So this next step is that the engineering firm has to apply, but they have to have a willing,
So that's 2080.
oh, right.
Yeah, so anyway. Wow, thank you. Pretty great. But if we are successful, they will make construction level documentation out of that plan and go through the permitting process and get all the permits we would need. And then within 5 years, we would need to find the funding to build it. And then this presentation, which is all online, all goes through like what kind of materials would we use to create the layers in between and how we're gonna do all that. And again, this was conceptual at the time. You know, what kind of edges would we use in between? People sit on it, like all that different stuff. So this firm, actually, we worked with 3 firms at the time. We're working with the same 3 firms. And then an additional firm, Labella Associates, which are the actual engineers, and they will stamp the drawings and actually have stamped engineering drawings if we are successful. But I think our chances are extremely high.
Yeah, so but the way they did it was the vendor had to apply with a willing municipality.
That's what we are.
So what the city did was to reach out to vendors to say, would you be willing to apply?
Right.
Kind of then give us your proposal.
Yep. We have multiple vendors.
Yeah.
Respond.
All right, great. So that's cool. And then down to Newey Pick is,
Friday.
all right, we did D, budget, communication. So the next step on the budget is to start thinking about how we want to, if we want to ask for this and all this. Communications, any communications? Nothing.
No, we're not any CDC communications.
Nothing on the item.
No.
Announcements and events. Let's see, the sea level rise, or the Earth Fair. Oh, I did send you a bunch of information about the Sustainable Hudson Valley putting on these webinars this week about the climate action roadmap that they've been working on. And so I did send you that, so you can look at it, you have to register, if there's any questions, I can try to answer. So that was one for me. Can't think of anything else jumping out there. Okay, any reports?
I did mention this before, but I need to see my responsibility
Okay.
for covering complete streets. I don't know if anybody else is willing to, I just haven't. Sorry.
When do they meet?
Yesterday, usually. 6 tomorrow. Should. It It's the second Wednesday of every month. This is tomorrow.
Okay. What time?
4 p.m. That's the other problem. It's in the middle of my work day. It's just difficult.
So we may not have anyone to be able to attend that. Right, Brianna probably can't. Maybe Brianna could. Right,
I mean, you can also watch the YouTube video.
yeah, but you can't really participate.
I mean, that, I mean, for a while I was just doing that when I could, but it's not ideal. So, yeah.
Okay. Planning board, anything else, Kevin?
No, we covered that.
Public safety, I didn't go, but it's interesting because Michael is not on public safety, but he's our liaison. And I let them know that I couldn't attend, but there really wasn't anything new. Climate Smart Kingston, Kevin,
There was no quorum, but the Earth Fair was discussed informally.
okay.
And just as a reference, that board has 11 people. We had 12 people in the room, and we still didn't have quorum of voting members.
Oh, no.
So, and that board actually has at least 3 more people that are interested in getting on that board to fill the position, like, and have no vacancies, and we still can't get quorum. But it is what it is.
And, sorry, I think I'll turn that down.
NISAC, I don't have any updates, but you can always keep an eye to the NISAC webpage for any updates on the conference.
And then Ulster County Environmental Management Council, I did check, Ted did resign.
Okay.
So, I can put myself out there as a member, but we could wait and see if there's someone next month.
Right.
And the issue with that is that public safety and the EMC meet at the same time. So if one meeting's here and the other one's over at SUNY Ulster or down on Broadway, it's okay. But otherwise, you have to attend remotely, which is not good. Okay, and the tree commission, again, we actually need a liaison for that. That meets right now, at 5 o'clock. And, so we're gonna keep moving with that. I would have gone to that meeting. I don't wanna go to the meeting, but I wouldn't mind going just because it's right before this. Which is, by the way, why we met. The last time it met, it overlapped and we couldn't start, because they use the same room, so I just decided. I assume no one else can meet on the tree commission right now, that's on the committee. To make that meeting, which is at 5 o'clock, 4:30 or 5. Yeah. Okay, all right, anything else?
Is there gonna be quorum? The next meeting is May 14th. Again, there are multiple people who have submitted applications, so I'm guessing the board may be of a different size at that time, but
Yeah, I should be able to make it.
Yeah, I should be able to make it too.
And can I ask you guys something? So when you want to appoint new people, what do you need the most in members who want to join? I mean, what?
Somebody who can be here.
Somebody. So attendance is like really key.
Attendance and interest.
Yeah.
and objectivity. And
Right,
objectivity.
and patience.
And patience, and critical
Just an
thinking.
interest in the issues, like,
Yes.
we don't need like specialized skills, we're happy with.
Yeah, but
I mean, it's
being a
good to have
writer is
specialized
really
skills.
good, excuse me, being a writer and someone who can research and stuff also is very helpful. And yes, and I can make it on 14th also. And, interest in willingness to learn and to.
Well, I'm going to leave, but thank you for letting me come. And I think it's really interesting what you're covering. That's why I stayed the whole time, because I thought I'm going to leave. Oh, wait a minute, I want to hear about that. And it's incredible how much you're doing.
Yeah,
So I am really interested.
thank you. We're-
But I'm going to leave. And thanks a lot.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You still need to close the meeting? I close the meeting when you're.
So we can adjourn.
I vote to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Okay, good. Yes.